track wrestling here at Southeast Polk High School with Southeast Polk graduate, two-time NCAA All-American, Big Ten champion, former Iowa wrestler Jessman Smith, Southeast Polk assistant now. You guys have upwards of 100 guys coming out for wrestling here. Practice starts on Monday. Going to give us a little tour of practice room here with the Rams. I'll let you
Yeah,
take
well,
the
we
lead.
got 3 full mats, big mats here, and to start with, it was ample space, but now we've quickly outgrown it. So, as Coach Christensen said earlier, we may have to change how we do things a little bit. But me coming back on board here was all about helping get the program to where I always felt like it was. I always had so much pride here, being an alum. But, we struggled to crack the top 10, and then we struggled to come home with a trophy. And so once we started, accomplishing those things, what we needed our guys to understand, kind of by comparison, was how much we struggled to get to where we are, and not to take that for granted. So what became pretty evident to us is that they needed a history lesson. And so we actually, essentially require our guys to study all the stuff we have on the walls here, so they understand kind of who came before them, what the hard lessons were, what the good lessons were, and to show them that it's their turn, and no matter what level they're at, they have a role to play. Or if they've lost in the finals, or maybe if they didn't ever medal until their senior year, they can medal or win just one gold medal and never place besides that. So important for these legends and lores that get passed along amongst the alum to be formalized and passed on to the next generation. So that said, we just kind of started with putting up our traditional state championships, starting in 2013. We lost on a stall call in 2014 in the last match of the tournament, as predicted by Andy Hamilton.
I didn't predict you'd lose on a stall call.
You said it'd come down to the last match of the tournament, though, and it did. 2015, 2016, 2017 state champions, and we tell the whole story. We have a biography of the team where they placed, the place winners. We won in 2016. We won without any champions, and it says 0 champions on that portion of it. It talks about how the season went and some of the big matches and turning points and those kind of things. Up here we have the banners, and this started from the 5 season centers, where the state duels were when they were separated from the state traditional tournament. And so we'd never been before, and it predates me by a couple of years on the coaching staff, but 2007 was our first year making it state duels. And
No, 2004.
Okay, yep, 2004. Thank you, Coach Christensen. And, that was a big deal to us at the time to qualify. And so we started hanging those banners, and then as we progressed, we start putting up, state championship or even the state runner-up banners, just so guys can remember what it feels like to lose. In 2016, we lost in the state dual finals, and even though we were probably heavy favorites, and turned around to the traditional tournament and smashed our way through the traditional tournament, over the course of the next 3 days. So those are good lessons for guys to learn there. Our score clock is standard in every wrestling room, and then we get into our state champions walls, and this is all of our individual state champions. You see some D1 guys, D1 football players, D1 wrestlers. We went 20 years between state champions from 74 to 93, and so what these guys don't know is we lost 9 state finalists in a row, before we crashed through that ceiling again with my brother, and then me, and then when Coach C got here with Jessman Smith and those guys. So, and each of these guys has a great story to tell. Guys that were 2-time runner-ups before they finally won it. Tim Miklas only medaled once, and it was gold. So here again, showing these guys that you can have failure and still find that success later. And so they're required to know these. Our athletic department had a tweet the other day, a trivia tweet, said, "Who was Southeast Polk's first state champion wrestling, or first wrestling state champion?" And within seconds, dozens of our guys answered that on Twitter immediately, and the AD was blown away by the fact that it was so easy. Well, the guys are required to know that. Getting down here, we just get to all of our place winners, and nice and big, and we can tell the story again of where guys finished, and you look up here, you see second, clear up into, my brother got second twice, clear up into 93. So it's all right for those guys to see our failures and what the path is that brought us where we are. And, kind of notably, we've only had 3 coaches in our 50-year history, 50-plus year history, and Red Owens for 30 of them, and Joe Horton for 8, and then Christensen since 2002, and you can see how prolific Coach C has been, and that this is Owens, this is Horton, and the rest of them are Christensen since he's here in 2002. And then you start adding 9, 10, 11, 12 names, per year of state place winners, then you start making some headway. And then another thing to be pretty proud of here is a couple of Cheesehead championships. That goes to the winner every year, and that's the toughest tournament of the year for us and for a lot of teams. And so to bring one of those home is a big deal. And so we wanted to ensure that we had a place to display that. But otherwise, pretty standard fat pull-up bar and workout equipment, and nice long room for sprints and a little film study. But most of all, we just kind of need more room with that kind of number. So,
tell us a little bit about Corey Clark and coaching him and what made him special here.
Corey Clark, lots of special things about Corey, but more than anything, probably had more love for the sport than anybody I've ever known, at least at the high school level. And all he wanted to do was wrestle, and schoolwork was tough for him because he didn't want to do that because it wasn't wrestling. And so he's just got that obsessive personality, and he obsessed over the wrestling. And I still tell people that they've only seen about 10% of what he can do. Tremendously gifted in situations, and he dropped that match his senior year, and that was extremely hard at him at the time, and he felt bad about that. And we had said, this has been coming for a little while. We can tell you're tightening up in your matches, and so it's time. You got your one loss in your career. Let's just open it up. And then you saw what he did in the state tournament, and he just tore through, arguably the toughest weight class in the nation with those couple other nationally ranked guys at his weight class. So a lot of fun to coach Corey. It was a lot of fun to watch his success with the Hawkeyes. He wanted to wrestle. He didn't love the training. He didn't love the track. He didn't love the weight room. But the wrestling room, you couldn't punch a smile off his face. We'd come in here, and he'd be taking on, the 182-pounder. He'd be taking on the 197-pounder. If they said they could beat him, the gloves came off immediately, and they just started wrestling, and we'd have to come in here and break it up and start practice because he'd go however long it took. I mean, you can't grab him without him grabbing you back. It's just not possible.
So you guys have Corey Clark, you have Alex Meyer, you have Willie Miklas, you have 3 Division I future All-Americans at the same time, and your best team probably in school history in 2012, you finished second. Yep. And then you lose those guys, and the dam breaks, and you start winning title after title. What occurred, do you think? What led to the success that you've had from 2013 on?
Well, Christensen talked about what we've done systemically to do that, as far as really, what's interesting about our team is we manage them all together at the same time. They're separate. Jeff Evans sets his schedule for his Jeff's varsity first string JV. We have Gold. These are like separate teams going separate ways all the time, and they face each other at meets and they wrestle off. So systemically, you've kind of heard what that is. Specifically in 2012, it's that Miklas made Meyer made Blackford, that made Fisher, that made the rest of those guys, and so the ripple effect really just hadn't quite taken effect yet in 2012. Actually, I think it had. I mean, we're talking about the super team era where, it takes 160 points to win. And so I can't recall off the top of my head what we scored that year, but we had 3 champs, 5 finalists, 7 place winners, and take second. So we were just, one place winner away, maybe a match or 2 away from having a place winner to win that. So, but the ripple, the tide really came up after that, and we've been riding ever since. And now we're getting to be multi-generational, where full classes have been out, full classes have come in, and try and keep that momentum going by continuing to do those systemic things that we do. And ultimately, we're making progress in the Iowa history charts, but ultimately it's about catching some of those national powerhouses like Apple Valley and St. Paris Graham and Blair and some of those comparables. So we're a ways behind them yet, but we're trying to set that national level and continue that. And things look good for the foreseeable future.
You guys talk about all the things that you've done here in the history. How much does the numbers mean to you? Do the numbers mean to you just from the participation numbers? Or are you paying attention to who else out there has 100 plus? Is that something that's in your mind?
Yeah, we have some idea of what some of the other schools that we face have for numbers. As you know, Jeff Evans, our assistant coach, he's a big numbers guy, but the numbers feed the tradition, and the tradition feeds the numbers. It's cyclical, and so some of those little traditions. I mean, stupid stuff like we do ugly haircuts and ugly sweaters for Christmas, and we have the gallon challenge every year where the guy's got to try and drink a gallon of milk in an hour. And we do all that stuff outside of the wrestling room to create this family, and sometimes that's overused, but this camaraderie where they're not wrestling for us, they're wrestling for each other, and that's where you can be an administrator for the team, but they lead themselves, and that includes, that's not just a varsity only invitation. It's freshman kind of rite of initiation to get a bad haircut or to throw up at the gallon challenge or whatever the case may be. And so I think more than anything what the kids realize is how much we care as a staff, how hard we work to make them feel part of the team. And I think with other programs you might have a coach that maybe coaches year-round. Christensen coaches 24/7, 365, and we have about 4 or 5 other coaches that coach year-round, regardless of what's going on. And it's just hard for, I think, other schools to compete with that amount of manpower that we put out there to make sure that all these kids are feeling needed. And so, we make every opportunity we can. We try to help them with transportation, all those other things, to make it as feasible and easy as possible for everybody, no matter whether they're good or not. Because, the good guys didn't start good. They just ended up there.
Anything else for us?
That's it. Go track wrestling.